On a random Sunday, I decided to participate in a chess tournament in central Stockholm. Now, this was supposed to be a blitz tournament, and I thought it would be probably pretty casual because it was at a chess bar, and, it just felt like it would be this kind of casual vibe. However, I didn't know that it was going to be filled with grandmasters and international masters, and it was actually going to be the strongest blitz tournament in Swedish history. At least I think so. But I came in there with a positive attitude and just thought, let me do my very best. And one tactic I have to play better is to not know who my opponents are. So I beat a lower rated opponent in round number 1, and in round number 2, I was playing this guy with glasses and I had no idea who he was or what his rating was. So I decided to just treat the game as any other game. Now, what I didn't know was that this guy was a chess grandmaster. And not only was he a chess grandmaster, he was also the current Swedish chess champion. So I had no idea about this coming into the game. And you're going to see that I'm just playing a game thinking that I'm playing a random guy with glasses. I had no idea who he was, but this was a strong grandmaster. So anyways, we kind of waited around a little bit, and then at some point he started the clock and I made my first move d4. He went knight f6, I went c4, he played e6. I decided to not enter the Nimzo Indian because there's a lot of theory, and then I just went knight c3. I did at this point notice that he was playing the moves very fast, and I did think that he was probably pretty high rated, but like I said, I had no idea. Anyway, so he played bishop b4, and this became a kind of Ragozin is the name of this opening. He's pinning my knight, and now he has dreams of bringing up his knight to the center of the board and be very annoying. So I kind of thought, okay, I kind of want to go queen c2, but I thought, maybe I can be a little bit tricky, because I realized that if I go queen c2 or e3, he's going to play the move c5. So I thought maybe I should go ahead and start by giving a check to force his knight to block the check, as otherwise the bishop is hanging, and then go e3, because now I'm stopping him from going c5. I felt very clever here. I was smiling internally because I was like, this is a good plan, Anna. I thought. I was looking at my time, seeing that I was doing pretty well, and I was giving myself some positive reinforcement. So he was thinking here, I was happy with my position, and he decided to castle. So I simply brought my bishop out. I went bishop d3, so it's in the most active diagonal of the whole game. And I was chilling. I was like, I must be a little bit better here. This is great. I'm sure that I started thinking about lots of other things. Everything from what I was going to have for dinner that day to different songs. But as soon as he made a move, I quickly went back to c2, and nobody would ever think that I was thinking about other things than chess here. So anyways, he ended up taking my pawn on c4. I took it back with the bishop. I was playing very fast. He went knight a5, threatening my bishop. I thought, okay, there isn't really many places I can go to. I was considering where to go back with the bishop, because I thought, okay, he's going to try to activate his own bishop on c6 and put it in that diagonal, but I thought, should I be passive or should I be active? So I was spending a little bit of time considering both going back with the bishop 1 step and going back with the bishop 2 steps. On d3, the bishop would be more active. However, on e2, my bishop would be protecting my knight. So I ended up going back all the way to e2, which I'm honestly not sure if it was the right choice. But during the game, I thought that this was fine. He ended up playing c5, and now I thought it's probably time for me to pretty soon start castling, but I was considering, should I go something like rook d1 first? I was even considering, should I take on c5? How would any of those moves be, I thought. So I spent a little bit of time thinking here. And I for sure at this point knew that my opponent was strong, but I didn't think that I was playing a Grandmaster. Like, I had no idea. I played bishop d6, which I got really excited about during the game, but maybe it's not the best move. However, I thought I was winning a pawn here. So I was threatening his rook. I was threatening to win a pawn. I got really excited. I thought, wait, am I missing something? Like, am I not just winning a pawn? What's going on? So he spent a little bit of time thinking here. And I do like that I was playing fully on aggressive. Like, I had no fear. I had no nothing. Like, I was just playing as aggressively as I possibly could right now. So he was thinking. He spent quite a lot of time thinking here, actually, in this moment. Was he going to move the rook? Or was he going to do an in-between move? Now, he ended up playing bishop a4, which I instantly replied to. However, I hadn't seen that move. I was just trying to look confident. But yeah, I instantly took it because I realized I couldn't do anything else. He took my bishop on d6, and I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't so good for me to go for this. So anyways, I decided to castle now, but I thought this was still okay. My plan was just going to be to bring a rook into the center, go place a rook on d1. He ended up taking my knight on c3. And then he played b6. And now we had this different little pawn structure. I had my little reinforced triangle in the center. And I thought I had a great position because I thought, okay, I can place a knight in the center. My bishop is going to go to f3. He can't really attack my center in any way. His knight is really badly placed on a5. So I was actually quite happy. Here he played rook c8. And I definitely think bishop a6 was maybe not the best choice. I think maybe I should have gone something like bishop f3. I wanted him to not be able to double up his rooks. However, I quickly realized that now my pawn on c3 is going to become quite a big weakness. So after when rook d1, I was all excited, but after he played the move knight d5, I realized that I could be in trouble because he was threatening knight takes c3, and I now did not know how to defend everything, because if I went rook c1, I thought then he can take my pawn in the center, and I was really close to instantly going rook c1, but then I realized, wait, he has c takes d4, and after c takes d4, I wasn't really exactly sure of what to do, because what do I take with? My pawn on c3 is going to be hanging. I started getting annoyed because I didn't know what to do. I was thinking as much as I possibly could, but I just couldn't figure out how to defend this pawn on c3. And I felt my time ticking. I felt the pressure. I played quickly rook c1 because it was the only move I could really see, but I could tell that it probably wasn't the best move in the position. So I felt my blood pressure going up. He took my pawn instantly, of course. And now I thought, okay, I have to take back with the queen, because if I take with any other piece, my pawn on c3 is going to fall. I started feeling really nervous, but I thought, okay, so far, Anna, you have it under control. And I just had to make sure I kept it under control. So my queen was in the center of the board. Everything was defended, but my pawns were weak. He played knight c6. I thought I have to trade. He took with the queen. And I was now afraid that my bishop was going to get trapped, because I thought if he pushes that b pawn, it could get trapped. So I played bishop b5. He wanted to trade queens. I went h3. The camera started shaking. Good that it didn't drop. I went h3 because I didn't want to get back rank checkmated at any point. He brought his other rook in, and I now wasn't really sure what my continuation was. I went bishop a6 because I wanted to stop him from being able to have those two rooks on that file together, doubled. I took with the pawn. I went back with the bishop. I started bringing in my king, and I was just really trying to get a draw here. I was really excited because I thought, okay, I've entered this endgame where it could be a draw, but I wasn't sure. So anyways, I got my king all the way to the center. He took on b5. Threatened my pawn. I moved it. I went a4. He played e5. I now started getting nervous because I realized that my pawn was hanging, but I went rook c7. He took my pawn, and now was the moment I should have gone king d3. If I went king d3 instead of king e4 in that position, it would be a draw, but I went king e4, or at least it would be a much better drawn position. I wanted to have my king active, but I allowed him to play this move d3 because I thought that I would have really good activity with my rook, but now his pawn could go all the way down. And after this, I brought my rook to c6. This was a mistake. I had to probably go all the way back with my rook, maybe go rook c3. And now, after rook e1, there was no way for me to prevent this pawn from getting promoted. And I did a few checks to make myself feel better, but the truth was the truth. And here, I simply resigned. But right after the game, I mean, I still didn't know how strong my opponent was. I didn't know that he'd been Swedish champion. And I actually asked what his rating was, and he didn't really understand the question, but instead he just told me that it was a draw after king d3. And then we started looking at the game a little bit and talking about the game, and I still didn't know how strong he was. And I'm really happy he didn't understand my question, what's your rating, because this man was a grandmaster and was the current Swedish champion. So I'm happy he didn't understand my question. I was a bit ashamed when I looked at the pairings right after and realized how I was facing, but I was extremely happy that I got such a great game versus such a strong player. This is probably one of my very best games ever against a grandmaster, and I'm really happy. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know if you want to see more videos from this tournament. Have a fantastic day. Bye bye.